Conference expansion. It's one of several dirty words that diehard college football fans blame for the ongoing desecration of the world's greatest sport, just like NIL, TV revenue, and Pat McAfee on College Gameday. But unlike those other things, conference expansion has been around long before the NCAA even existed. Listen, I don't want to deep dive into history here, but just know that out of all the Power 4 FBS conferences, the SEC has kept expansion closer to home than anyone else. But that might have to change because we are in an arms race with the Big Ten, and we are currently not winning. They're beating us in the total number of members, TV viewership, cool commercials, and national championships that should not count. If we're going to keep up, we must expand. But fear not, the SEC does not have to sacrifice its regional identity in pursuit of the almighty dollar. There are plenty of schools located within the SEC's border, or pretty close to it, that are ripe for the picking. And I have compiled a list of them. So here are, in my opinion, the 10 best candidates for SEC expansion, based on some scientific things and then just vibes. This is a comedy video. I don't work for the SEC. They don't even acknowledge my existence. Just barely making the top 10 is one of the most storied programs on this entire list. Their all-time winning percentage is currently ranked 16th amongst all college football programs. And they were the very first FCS school to ever receive a vote in the AP Top 25 poll. And their mascot looks like a rabbi lumberjack. Yes, number 10 is Appalachian State. Yes, their enrollment numbers and stadium size would put them at the very bottom of the SEC, but the ceiling is very high for App State. Adding Appalachian State gives the SEC a foothold in untapped Carolina territory, access to the Charlotte market, a proven football pedigree, and one of the most exciting and enthusiastic mid-sized fan bases in America. All while fitting the cultural DNA of the conference better than half the Big 12 does, which I'm going to be honest is not a very fair comparison because the Big 12 is less of a conference and more of an orphanage for teams that the Big 10 doesn't want. All that being said, there is zero chance the App State gets invited to the SEC anytime soon. Right now, they can't pull their weight in TV revenue. Their athletic budget is way too small, and I'm pretty sure Texas A&M is still very mad at them for what happened in 2022. But one day, when the SEC is looking to add its 2016, App State will be ready. And we are absolutely going to make them schedule Texas A&M first. One more time, let's see it. Coming in at number 9 is a school that is a little less of a long shot, but still very much off the radar. I'm talking about your 2017 national champions, the Central Florida Knights. Are they the best candidate for expansion in the state of Florida? No. Do they have a century or more of football tradition? Also no. Did they win a national championship? Again, no. It kind of depends on who you ask, but no. But UCF does have one of the largest enrollments in the entire country, a deadgum good football program, and they are seated smack dab in the middle of one of the densest recruiting areas in America. You cannot ignore UCF's trajectory, and that is exactly why they've earned themselves a spot in the Big 12 orphanage. I fully believe that they will improve their standing on this list over the next decade, but at the moment, UCF is not SEC material because they're going to have to come up with way more than one fake national championship. I mean, Bama's got 6 of them. So coming in at number 8 is the first school on this list that can check every box needed to get an invite from the SEC today. And that team is North Carolina and Duke. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Matt. That's 2 different schools, but if you put them together, you will have one mediocre football program. Now, I've heard both of these schools floated around for SEC expansion for years now. Adding Duke and North Carolina to the SEC would greatly improve our basketball exposure, our academic standing, and our tailgate charcuterie boards. And I know what you're thinking. Do these 2 schools even want to join the SEC? Yeah, I mean, they're both really smart, so I'm sure they've thought about it and done the math. I mean, they love it here. I mean, yes, they are 2 big basketball programs, but the SEC is just as dominating in basketball as it is football. And by that, I mean we have won only 1 national championship over the last 3 years in each of those sports. But I am positive that if North Carolina and Duke join the SEC, they would do everything that they and their massive endowments could do to bring their football programs up to the SEC level. Or we could have 3 Kentuckys. Wouldn't that be fun? Landing at number 7 is Virginia. Adding the Cavaliers to the SEC would feel a lot like when we added Missouri to the conference. They will add a new and very large TV market to the SEC. They help shore up our northern border against a Big Ten invasion, and they both have a really weird infatuation with columns. And let's not forget, Virginia is a recruiting hotbed that the SEC has a long history of tapping into. Remember Jared Mayo at Tennessee, or Percy Harvin at Florida, and then Ben Tate at Auburn, and do not forget about Deshaun Hand at Alabama. Virginia is full of talent. It's just that most of that talent usually enrolls at Virginia Tech. And therein lies the biggest problem with adding the Cavaliers to the SEC. They bring so much to the table except for the most important thing: a dominant college football program that can make the playoffs and lose to the Big Ten. Now, to round out the first half of this list, we're going to travel to the other side of the SEC, to the Lone Star State. Now, I limited myself to one single Texas institution for this list because we already have two. Technically three, if you remember that Georgia owns TCU. But there is one program deep in the heart of Texas that I feel is often overlooked and always punching way above their weight. That is the sixth best school, ripe for the SEC's pickings, Houston. Depending on your age and where you live, you might just see Houston as some small CUSA school where Case Keenum broke every record imaginable and then went on to the NFL to play for every team imaginable. But the Houston Cougars have history. They've got a Heisman Trophy winner in Andre Ware. They've had some huge bowl wins, and they pioneered the run and shoot offense. And they were once in the same conference as Arkansas, Texas, and Texas A&M for almost 20 years until, the SEC broke away from the College Football Association to broker its own TV deal, which ultimately led to the demise of the Southwest Conference, which then forced Texas, Texas A&M, and others to join the newly formed Big 12, which left Houston just hanging out to dry. Join the CUSA. But I'm sure there's no hard feelings, especially now that they've got a home in the Big 12 orphanage. But deep down, Houston wants to be in the same league where they can take shots every year at Texas and Texas A&M. And while the Cougars aren't going to unlock some brand new big old TV market for the SEC, they will give us a bigger chunk of Houston. And Houston is a very big city with a lot of TVs. I don't know the exact number, but I know that there's at least 3 TVs at every bar in the Papacitos, and there are at least 73 Papacitos in the Houston metro area. So it's a lot of eyeballs on the SEC. My point is, Houston brings a lot to the table immediately, and their growth potential is enormous, mostly because they have several donors with very deep pockets. Just think of them as SMU, but with fans. Now, before we go back to plotting out which schools the SEC should be scooping up next, let me tell you about the folks who made this video possible. Collegiate Legends. This whole thing started with a 7-year-old named Gigi who asked her mom, why aren't there toys of my favorite players? And instead of shrugging it off or strapping a little mini helmet on top of a Ken doll, they built a whole company around that idea. Today, Collegiate Legends makes action figures of college football stars, figurines that you can collect, play with, or stick on your desk to remind you that Saturday's coming. Hang in there, buddy. They teamed up with Rob and Harvinger Studios, a proud disabled veteran-owned shop known for making high-end quality collectibles, to make Gigi's dream a reality. Lifelike football figurines built to last. And what I love is they're not just making toys, they're doing it the right way, through NIL deals. Every athlete they partner with is fairly compensated, and every deal has a built-in give back, whether that's supporting community football programs, classrooms, or charities like Nick's Kids. So if you've got a kid that's tired of trying to run the wishbone with their Ninja Turtles, or you're an adult college football fan that wants to know what it's like to snatch up your favorite player from the transfer portal, go to collegiatelegends.com and start building your dream team. The one you've been arguing about at tailgates for years. To meet our 5th most eligible candidate for SEC expansion, we need only travel up the road to Oklahoma. Stillwater, to be exact. Yes, I am talking about the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Right out of the gate, adding OSU to the SEC brings Bedlam back to college football. It gives us one nightmare fuel of a mascot, and that fan base fits right into the SEC. No, they do not have the national prestige of other teams on this list, but does every team have to be a Texas? Oklahoma sure hopes not. Oklahoma State reminds me a lot of Mississippi State, but without the cowbells, or Arkansas, but without the tremendously bad luck. And the SEC would not be the same without them. Every team we add to this conference does not have to be a blue blood. As a matter of fact, they shouldn't be. Programs like Oklahoma State are what makes college football so special. They may never be one of the meats in the SEC gumbo, but they can be a nice kick of cayenne pepper. And something like that makes the whole pot better. Our fourth best candidate for expansion just so happens to be the largest university system in all of the Carolinas, NC State. Their fans literally howl at the moon, so there's a very good chance that they could communicate with Georgia fans just through barking. NC State also has a long history of being subjected to questionable calls by ACC refs, and as we all know, SEC officials hate everyone equally. So Wolfpack fans can rest easy knowing they'll get screwed here too. In addition to bringing in some pretty big TV markets, NC State also gives us North Carolina's vinegar-based barbecue. So that will be the last stone in the infinity gauntlet of barbecue for the SEC. Golly, it really does feel like a match made in heaven, doesn't it? But unfortunately, the state of North Carolina has made it clear that they do not want to separate NC State and North Carolina into two separate conferences. And I can't see the SEC adding North Carolina and not Duke. It's messy, but I think we can all rest assured that the bureaucrats in Raleigh have North Carolinians' best interest at heart, except for the 2 million times they haven't. The point is, in every way that matters, tailgating, rivalries, paranoia about refs, making animal noises with other fans, NC State is already like the SEC's relative. They've just been at the wrong family reunion. And it's not even one of the fun ones with matching t-shirts. Our third most eligible bachelor also resides in the ACC and has made quite a few headlines for their haphazard attempts to escape it. That team is, of course, Florida State. At face value, this acquisition is a no-brainer. FSU is a football blue blood with 3 national championships, 3 Heisman Trophy winners, and 2 guys covered head to toe in glitter for some reason. The issue is that multiple SEC teams, especially the Gators, have long objected to adding FSU to the SEC because of overlapping TV markets and recruiting bases. But I think it's time for us to get over that. And I say that as a Gator fan and a lifelong hater of Free Shoes University. If the SEC does not make moves to pick up FSU, the Big Ten will. Those Northerners have already clogged up Florida's highways with snowbirds, and I know they are just chomping at the bit to slow down our football too with those forward pass-hating Hawkeyes. Right now, the South really only claims the top half of Florida, but if we don't get FSU, we'll lose the Panhandle too. That's the Redneck Riviera, okay? That's ours. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to live in a world where Pineapple Willie's serves bagels and lox. Our second best candidate for SEC expansion has also signaled their intent to leave the ACC. But they unfortunately also signed a TV contract that doesn't expire until 2036. Holy crap, y'all. Are y'all reading these contracts before you sign them? This is not Apple's terms and conditions. You don't just scroll right past it and click accept. Anyway, I'm talking about the Noles' courtroom companion, Clemson. They bring with them the same level of football excellence as FSU, but more natural rivalries in the SEC and a rock. See, they have this little magic stone that used to be a doorstop, and now they all rub it for good luck before they run down their little bitty hill and lose to South Carolina. South Carolina has only won in Death Valley like 2 times out of the last 10 years, but I knew that comment would get them really riled up, which, is further proof that Clemson belongs here. They are one of us, and I know that they've got to be tired of dominating the ACC. Do y'all really want to travel across the country to play a conference game against Stanford next year? Stanford. We have our own version of Stanford in the SEC, and they're called Vandy, except our little geniuses are getting pretty good at football. Also, their mascot does not look like it escaped an elementary school Christmas play. I know that the ACC's stupidly long TV contract is the issue here, but there's an easy way out of this, Clemson. Make it official. Add that P that you keep mispronouncing in Clemson, and now your name is nowhere in that contract. I didn't read the contract either, so I don't know if that'll work or not. And now we've reached our finale. The one team that I believe belongs at the very top of the SEC's expansion wish list, and that team is Notre Dame. I'm just kidding. It's Virginia Tech. Now, I know that I don't speak for all of the SEC, but it's the internet and I do it anyway. And I've always had a soft spot for the Hokies. They are the definition of a blue-collar football team, and they bring out their little metal lunch pail to every game to symbolize that and pay respect to Virginia's hard-working coal miners. Plus, Enter Sandman is easily in the top 5 best college football entrances. No doubt about it. Sure, the Hokies don't have a loaded trophy case like Florida State or Clemson, but they will help the SEC plant a flag in a whole new state without encroaching on Florida or South Carolina's territory. Culturally, Virginia Tech is already one of us, They tailgate like us, they complain about the refs like us, and they measure their Saturdays by how loud the stadium shakes. Virginia Tech doesn't have to change one thing to fit into the SEC because they've been living like it all along. Honestly, at this point, the only difference between us and Virginia Tech, Florida State, Clemson, and NC State is the patch on their jersey. And it's about time we sew ours on. Yeah, I'm pretty much advocating for taking all the good ACC teams and putting them in the SEC. We're coming for you, Big Ten. We're going to make it all the way to the championship game, where we will likely lose to you again.